Hey everybody, it's me, John Ward, and this is now my second out of the theater, in the car rant. But it's not going to be as big of a rant as last time. I just got out of the theater, just went to AMC Theaters, and saw Jurassic World Regurgitation, and it's 2 hours and 16 minutes. There are a bunch of trailers in front of it. I'm really deciding if I want to go to the movies or not. I know we got Superman coming up, and there's also I Know What You Did Last Summer, which was one of the trailers. And I'm really hoping that they don't that this isn't a sequel to just the first I Know What You Did Last Summer. I'm really hoping that they include the second one in there too. But yeah, the trailers were better than the movie. It's the snack bar, of course, is twice as much as the movie. The theater was pretty packed Sunday at 1:05. When I left, that place, the entire theater, was packed with people. So I'm glad I went when I did. I had to wait in line just to refill my soda. Where before, I mean, you could just go up and do anything that you wanted. But as far as the movie goes, I've been hearing nothing but bad things. And I gotta say that, I mean, they're not wrong. They're not wrong. I think that they need to just kind of end this series. Except really for the first Jurassic Park. And I'm going to try to make this spoiler free because I know it's still pretty new. But except for really the first film, I don't think they really acknowledge any of the other movies. I wanted to, and this doesn't ruin anything because it's in the trailer. I basically wanted... There's like a lab, and this lab's been destroyed, and it's like mutations of these dinosaurs, and this is kind of where they keep them, because they keep trying, because the public, kind of like they've mentioned before, they're bored of dinosaurs, they want something new. There is like a dying dinosaur, they're trying to take it back to, get it off the streets. And because it's kind of wandered into the city, and people just don't care. They're more worried about the traffic than they are about the dinosaur. And so they're on this lab, which was I think it said something like 7 years earlier. They're trying to make bigger and better dinosaurs, but of course, there's also mutations involved. So it kind of reminded me of Alien Resurrection. That's what I wanted. That's not the film I got, unfortunately. Since the film is 2 hours and 16 minutes, I really wanted, okay, fine, we get like 30 minutes worth of development. We meet the characters, they go off to the island, they meet up with a couple, dinosaurs that we all know, and then the rest of the movie feels like a giant big budget version of like what a Roger Corman movie would be. And they find the old lab that is all in ruins, and I love stuff like that. That's one of my favorite things about the Jurassic Park sequels, is when they go back to an old lab or an old building or something like that, and it's all demolished. And that's very Michael Crichton. It was in the original Westworld, then in the sequel in Future World, at one point they do go back, and they go back into what would be considered Westworld, and it's all demolished and everything. And so I love stuff like that. I love seeing the old buildings, the old labs, the old bones, the old vehicles. Well, I would say it probably took them about an hour and 45 minutes, maybe, to get there. And then all of our characters hit the lab. And that's when we meet up with, basically like the big new creature you know, because the dinosaurs always have to keep getting bigger. Well, this is a mutation. And that I liked. So basically, from when all of our characters hit the lab, which they don't know is a lab, I started to enjoy the movie. And the rest of it, forget it. I don't care. There's a family in this, and it's like a dad, the older sister, then there's like a younger sister, and then of course the older sister has to bring along the douchebag boyfriend who's a fucking asshole, you know, through almost the entire movie. How the writers thought that this was a good character, I have no idea. I guess he kind of redeems himself throughout the film, but he looks like the guy from Indiana Jones and the Diaper of Dysentery. Instead of it being Short Round, we got this frigging guy with this cheesy mustache. I'm wondering if it's the same guy, but I'm just too lazy to look it up. But he looks almost like the guy from that, and I did not like his character. I don't care if he had an arc or anything like that. He just annoyed the fuck out of me. Of course, we got to bring in the little girl, the youngest sister. And so once again, we just could not have a Jurassic Park film without friggin' kids in it. And it's, you know, and of course, the big baddie, the big evil person in it is a white guy. Of course, it's got to be a white guy. There is, you know, another white guy in it, and, you know, he's a nice guy and everything, but of course the baddie had to be the, you know, the big white guy. So the family is annoying. The adventurers and eventually the dumbest family on the planet, you know, meet up, and you know, this is in the trailer, so it's not going to ruin anything. Their boat gets hit by dinosaurs at the very beginning of the film. It's told to us that people are not allowed to go like traveling. It's like forbidden. And of course, they're out in a boat. They do mention, well, there's 50,000 other boats out there, but still, you're going to take your kids out on the boat, and this is brought up in the movie. But you know, it's the dumbest family ever, and this movie just tends to take from a lot of other films. So we have this dumb family who's sailing, who eventually ends up on the island, kind of like in Jurassic Park 3, with the dad and the kid that are doing like the paragliding or whatever it is that they're doing. And they end up on the island, and then the mom and dad have to go find the kid. Very similar in many ways. There are Alan Grant is mentioned. You know, there is product placement in this, or obviously Coke gave to them, and and of course at the very beginning, how does this all happen? A white fat guy is eating a Snickers bar, and he's in his whole kind of hazmat suit. And he basically just throws the wrapper on the ground, which conveniently flips over to say Snickers. And that gets stuck in the door, and that starts everything. And it's like, really? It's got to be a fat guy? It just can't. So kind of like going back to the first Jurassic Park, where we have the fat guy who steals the stuff and wants to sell it. I mean, you know, I know that I'm overweight. I know that I'm fat. But come on, fucking A, man. Really? I'm getting really tired of the evil white guy. I'm getting really tired of the stupid fat guy. Because then if I lose weight, I become the evil white guy. If I stay my weight, then I'm the stupid fat guy. And that tends to be what Hollywood wants. There are some okay performances in this, but it really kind of seems to be below some of the actors that are in this. The dinosaur effects will never look as good as they did in the first film. They look okay. They look fine. My favorite dinosaur in this, of course, is the mutated one that kind of looks almost like a whale in a way. I dig that, and I wish that we had more. I really wanted more on the island with the mutant, dinosaurs, and we get a whole new crop. We do get some of the traditional dinosaurs, which is okay, but I would have preferred more of a B movie, on a, millions dollar scale instead of what we got. And so it's, I don't know. I don't want to give too much away on this, but I really think that the studio, Universal, finally figured out that they made a mistake with Fallen Kingdom, which sucked, and Dominion, which sucked even more, that they had to basically backtrack and get everything back onto the island, kind of explain what's going on with the dinosaurs, and which I've heard that they basically are going towards the equator, but from what I've seen online, that's incorrect. They wouldn't be going to the equator. They would actually be going to the poles. But I don't know. Maybe that's wrong. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. But wow. I just don't know. This is from the director of Godzilla. So I don't know why this was kind of poorly directed. There were some weird camera choices, some weird edits. I didn't get it. It's written by David Koepp, who, when he writes his own stuff, like, A Stir of Echoes, The Trigger Effect, Secret Window, stuff like that, which is Stephen King, he does a great job when he's like his own writer and director. But when he seems to work with Spielberg, his stuff kind of sucks. And I don't know if it's him just I'm getting a paycheck, but he seems to be Spielberg's #1 writer. And I didn't look at who directed this, or maybe I forgot, but I really loved the first Godzilla movie. I still think it's the best, and, in that series. And this to me just it didn't seem like the same director. There are just really weird decisions. There are very weird story choices. It's 2 hours and 16 minutes, which means it was probably originally longer, but it just, like, come on, could we do better? And it is just taking from not just the other Jurassic Park films, which is very obvious. If something in this movie, in Rebirth, happens through a window, it probably happened through the door of another window, or in another movie. If something happened in the ceiling in this movie, it probably happened in the floor of another film. There is the, instead of the kitchen scene with the raptors in the first movie, we have something similar in this, but in like a convenience store. Everything just seems to be taken from something else, including just the ending of what they see in the ocean is very reminiscent of what was in the air in another Jurassic Park film. If you go see this, and if you like the films, why not? If you've seen all the other ones, I've been avoiding buying Dominion on Blu-ray. I have all of them just because I disliked it so much. But like in all the other movies, what I liked was when they got to the island, when they found the old, shops, when they found the old museums, when they found the old, labs. That's my favorite part. So even with like Dominion, that was my favorite part, is when they finally get to that point where they're at the old rundown stuff. That's when it becomes more interesting. So if you do end up seeing this, there is no mid-credit or in-credit scene. You can leave the second the credits come up, and you'll be perfectly fine. I checked on Google, and it says there are none, so you don't have to stay. I don't know what the box office on this is, because those real figures probably won't come out until sometime next week. They're going to want to see what it looks like for the 4th of July weekend. I didn't have a problem with spending money on this. It was $12. The theater was pretty full. People were into it. It was funny. It's one of the trailers is Wicked 2. And somebody, when the trailer got done, they actually hooted and clapped for the trailer. And then at the end of Rebirth, people were clapping. They actually cheered. And it wasn't the whole theater, but it was a few people. So I guess people like it. To a degree, but I did have next to me, it was so annoying, and this is another reason why I thought I'm not going to the movies again. So I had a family next to me, there were people in front of the family. I was right next to them, and the husband checked his phone during the movie. Fuck you. Even though it says at the beginning of the movie, don't do that. And then you also had there was a little girl, and the mother kept explaining to the girl what was going on. And it was very annoying. It was this little girl sitting right next to the mom, and the mom would explain everything to the little girl. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Do this at home. When the film comes out for streaming, then you can explain the entire damn movie to her. But she's sitting there explaining it. I felt like I was blind or something, and I had that, you know, that kind of like electronic voice, you know, in my ear, you know, because I can't see what's happening on the screen. It's like, stop doing that. You're disturbing the people in front of you. You're disturbing me. It was very annoying. And the kid was being a little loud with like, Mommy, what's that? Mommy, what's going on? Mommy, what's this? Oh no, Mommy. And sorry, my mouth is getting dry. I'll wrap this up in a second. But, oh God. So there are just, I don't know, there's stuff that I want to see in the theater. And so far, I think the only movie this year that I've liked is Ballerina. I could be wrong. Maybe you know, maybe there were others that I'm just forgetting. But this is, I don't know, catch it on streaming. If you want the full experience, check it out in the theater with the surround and all that type of stuff. But otherwise, I mean, I didn't think it was very good. I did think it was better than the last two. So if I kind of had to do a ranking, I guess, on these, it would be probably Jurassic Park, really for the wonderment of it all, of us never seeing this type of thing on the big screen. Then it would go Jurassic World. Then it would go Jurassic 3. Then it would probably go, well, Lost World, and then Rebirth, and then Fallen Kingdom, and then Dominion, because I really hated Dominion. So, yeah, that's pretty much my review. If I gave this like a 1 to 5, I'd probably give it a 2, because it did have its moments. But, yeah, I don't know. If you're really interested, if you're really curious, check it out. Otherwise, wait for streaming. I would probably buy this one first over Dominion to complete the collection, because I'm an idiot. I'm a completist. So, yeah, I don't know. It wasn't god-awful, but it wasn't good. And I did, like I said, I did like it better than the other two. So I guess it has that going for it. So, yeah, that's pretty it with me trying to avoid spoilers and all that type of stuff. But yeah, all right. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I will see you on the next Out of the Theater in my car rant, where hopefully something I see in the future won't be a rant. So, all right, everybody, bye.